Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante, making Gotham great again. Please support what we're doing. You can submit videos and articles like Tim Stack is doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood. And I've now added merch. So if you subscribe for as little as $5 a month, in addition to getting all this exclusive bonus content, access to all the live streams that are archived, polls, backstage at comedy clubs, you get stickers with PV merch. There's a mug tier. There's a lot of cool stuff to support the show, and you get all this bonus content on top of it. And then you can submit cool stuff like Tim Stack is doing that we can talk about. So what I'm going to show you here is how state-run Chinese television is allowed to ask questions and interview people that are Americans that are questioning our involvement in Ukraine. That this interview we're about to see, you would never see this on the corporate media in America.
How do you see the debate people are having regarding your theory that the West has been cornering Russia, which led to the latter's invasion or war against Ukraine?
Well, I think that in the West, especially in Europe and the United States, the mainstream media rejects my argument almost completely. And instead of blaming NATO and the West for precipitating this crisis, they prefer, for obvious reasons, to blame Vladimir Putin. I would note to you, by the way, if you look at the Western Hemisphere, the United States has a Monroe Doctrine. The United States does not believe that countries in the Western Hemisphere have a right to have their own foreign policy. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, when I was young, we did not believe that Cuba had the right to invite the Soviets to put missiles in Cuba. The same basic principle that the United States applies in the Western Hemisphere is the one that the Russians are applying vis-a-vis Ukraine. The Russians view Ukraine becoming a part of NATO as an existential threat. This is why, going back to April 2008, Putin drew a line in the sand. He said, this is not going to happen. This is a threat to our survival. And everything that has happened since then fits that basic paradigm.
Now, here's the thing. You keep on saying existential threat. But now the question is, who would be able to come into the brain of President Putin to understand exactly what's the definition of existential threat?
He thinks that the idea of NATO on Russia's doorstep in Ukraine presents a military and political threat that is simply unacceptable. So I think in this case, there's not much question what he means when he says it's an existential threat. Now, I will point out to you that there are a good number of people in the West who say that it's not an existential threat, that NATO's presence in Ukraine does not threaten Russia's survival. My response to them is, I don't care what they think. The only thing that matters is what Vladimir Putin thinks. And if Putin and his lieutenants think it's an existential threat, we ought to be very careful in dealing with him, because he has many thousands of nuclear weapons.
One of the reasons for your argument you cited earlier is that Russia is not looking at taking over Kiev. And yet people have been looking at the military actions that Russia took over there in that city and beyond. So how do you see the reality versus your theory? Many questions.
Well, I think if you actually look at the Russian military operation, it fits very neatly with my theory, because the conventional wisdom, the argument that the US government and the US media makes, is that Putin was interested in conquering all of Ukraine and making it part of Russia. It is clear, as you say, that he tried to capture Kiev and he failed. But even if he had succeeded, if you couple capturing Kiev with the other gains that the Russians made on the ground, it does not even come close to conquering all of Ukraine.
Tell me more about how do you think this situation could come to an end? What is the best scenario and the worst scenario?
I can only say that I don't see how this comes to an end. And this is the reason. Russia cannot afford to lose. The United States, on the other hand, has decided that it is going to, number one, defeat Russia inside of Ukraine. And furthermore, we're going to strangle Russia's economy. So here we have a situation where Russia has to win and the United States has to win. You know, both sides can't win. So what's the solution? I don't know.
So peace is not in sight at all.
Peace is not in sight at all. And
jeez, that's pretty alarming and pretty sobering. And I want to bring on the show to discuss this, host of Get Your News On with Ron. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Ron Placone.
What's up, Graham?
Hey, Ron, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm just thrilled to be listening to uplifting shit like this. You know, I was staring out at the ocean 20 minutes ago, and but man, this is just this is bringing my spirits to the heavens, man.
It's great to hear a guy, John Mearsheimer, who's been very critical of America and NATO involvement in this, and say basically that I don't know what the options are, but the thing I want to focus on here, for starters, is that interview. He could never get that interview on any American TV outlet.
No.
And even I had to pull that from YouTube. And on YouTube, it's CGTV. That's the Chinese, governmental television. It says state-run TV, right?
Right.
Just so you know, which, okay, fair enough. But it's funny when on MSNBC or CNN or Fox News's YouTube channel, it doesn't say run by the military-industrial complex, the oil lobby, and, Wall Street.
Well, it doesn't even bother being slightly more subtle than that. It doesn't even say like, hey, run by Comcast, run by Time Warner, run by Rupert Murdoch. And yeah, that's the thing that, and look, just to throw this out there, and I think that there is plenty of things to be critical about the Chinese within the Chinese media and
Sure.
pretty much all the media structures out there. But here in the West in general, and especially in the United States, more so in the United States than anywhere else, we have like this boogeyman devil term when it comes to, quote, state-run media. Oh, well, do you want state-run media? Meanwhile, our structure, corporate-run media, is infinitely worse. It's infinitely worse because these are corporations that answer to absolutely nobody. We don't have news organizations. We have PR organizations. At least are there total authoritarian state-run media experiments out there? Abso-freaking-lutely. But you know what else is also state-run media? The CBC in Canada, the BBC over in the UK and England, which again, all these things have their problems. Don't get me wrong, but are they better than the United States? Yes. NHK in Japan. That's all state-run media too. And the system that they have in Norway, where there's these elected boards and different people who are journalists and academics who hold media accountable. And there has to be a lot of transparency within news and information. So yeah, when you have those types of structures, you can have more complicated conversations, basically. And here in the United States and in the West in general, but especially in the United States, you are only getting the one side of it, which of course is Putin's a crazy guy. He's all on his own. There's nothing more complicated going on here. And we just have to defeat Putin. We're at war with Eurasia, folks. And it's not even just because that's the United States interest. It's because the United States interest goes into, we've never seen a war we didn't like, because we have an unabashedly, unapologetic pro-war media. Why is that? Well, follow the money, man. We're funded by war profiteers. The media is funded by war profiteers. That's who signs their check. The viewers sure as hell aren't signing their checks. Look at CNN Plus. CNN Plus had like less subscribers than most YouTube channels do. It was probably just the friends and family of the people who worked there before they just gave up. Which who got the money to implement that idea? Hey, you know what people need more of? Brian Stelter. Let's put it behind a paywall. People love the free shit so much. They need more of it. They need more of it. That didn't work. Who saw that coming? I mean, at least over at like Peacock or whatever, at least like they're doing shows and programming. They're at least realizing, hey,
Right.
people don't want more MSNBC. People don't want more of that shit. No one cares. Let's at least let's revamp the Fresh Prince or whatever the hell it is they're doing. At least they're trying to do that. Wow. Anyway, yeah, our media sucks.
Yeah, it's unbelievable when Chinese media is state-run media. It has its very clear propaganda push
Totally.
and angle, and you can't say anything negative about the Chinese government on those channels. But when they're doing a better job discussing covering Ukraine than anyone in America is, it's mind-boggling to me to watch this. Like, we can't have that discussion. I mean, before they took RT, they literally explain to me how we have a free press when we just knocked out RT America, scrubbed it from the internet like it doesn't exist. All these people with all these really good shows that I would watch. Chris Hedges on Contact, Redacted Tonight, Boom Bust, The Kaiser Report. I watched all those shows, Jesse Ventura's show. I mean, and they're all like, what's the danger of Boom Bust? Like, what is it infiltrating Americans' minds with that maybe the central banks and the Federal Reserve aren't as great as you're told that they are? Like, so we don't even have, we don't have a free
believe that
press.
Larry King is a foreign asset?
Yeah, Larry King.
Was Larry King a foreign? I mean, yeah.
And Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk was a foreign asset. He was on RT for like 6 weeks.
That one's kind of believable, actually. I mean, William Shatner, he seems like someone who could get talked into that. So there might be. I'm not totally sold that that's not legit, but
I mean, and so that journalist, and I'll end this segment with this, asking you this question. Obviously, I don't know what the way out of this is. I mean, I think the military-industrial complex wants never-ending war. That's good for business. That just never-ending war that ends in some sort of, 3-4 years from now, there's some sloggy stalemate, handshake thing, and everyone pulls out after Ukrainian people are completely decimated, and a bunch of NATO troops are dead, and Ukrainians are dead, and Russians are dead, and working class people are dead, while oligarchs in all countries, including America's shithead oligarchs, all make money. Is there a way to get any sort of real journalism and media back in America? Because I've been demonetized for 16 months. I mean, I've lost subscribers. I mean, Lee Camp and I, we do our show Government Secrets, and we joke we're the two most censored comedians in America. I mean, we've all been throttled, censored. I mean, literally money taken out, which demonetizing me on YouTube is a form of censorship. They're telling me don't talk about this. And I saw this 4 years ago. I'd put something up about Yemen. Oh, that video would get demonetized. Something about Iran. Oh, Epstein demonetized. Like, unreal.
Yeah.
So how do we get out of this?
Well, and all the people who were warning about Russiagate at the very beginning, we were called like crazy, and no, it's just about this, and this won't be weaponized against the left. Sure, cool story. Here we are 5 years later.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think it's the same situation we've always been in, to tell you the truth. I mean, it just keeps getting a little worse and worse. I mean, the good journalism does exist in the United States, and it exists despite the system, not because of it. It's
Right.
like when you see a tulip grow out of cement or some shit like that. So yeah, like there's good journalism happening in the United States, but it's because there's people who take it upon themselves to build something. Like what organizations like Status Quo are doing and stuff like that. People that are just going on the ground telling these stories, and it needs to be funded by listeners and viewers and supporters because it costs money to make journalism. People need to pay their bills and keep the lights on. People need to be able to go to places to get these stories, to say what's really going on in Flint. You can't do that from behind a green screen. You got to be there. So, I mean, and we lost the idea of journalism as a public good in this country a real long freaking time ago, man. I don't know if we ever had that notion, but if we did, it was a long freaking time ago, before either of us were even freaking born. So, I think the other side of that coin is like, well, when you only had traditional press outlets for so many years, it was even harder to try to do anything. You had to start like a print scene or something. Now, you have the internet, so that kind of democratizes things as far as it's easy to get your voice out there. But then, of course, the new generation of that is throttling and demonetization, and they'll just scrub you or whatever else. So I feel in some ways the struggle is the same as it always has been. The mediums are just evolving, which will continue to happen.
Yeah, let's hope that happens, because right now truth has been completely crushed. So
This isn't a Penguins hat, by the way. This is actually a Bowery West hat, my favorite brewery in San Pedro. But I do have a Penguins hat over there. I probably should have worn it, but they're doing good. Here, hoping they can finish it in 5. We'll see. They go back to New York tomorrow.
Yeah, they're up 3-1, right?
They are. They've been playing good, man. I mean, they're down to their third string goalie because there's been some crazy injuries. But that guy, I mean, credit to him. He's holding it down. He's keeping them in it. And they've been just playing some good hockey. The team's been stepping up. So we'll see. So hopefully tomorrow night they put a period on it.
Boom. When a goalie gets hot in the playoffs, that's all you need, man.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Ron, tell everybody where you and I are going to be in July.
Me and you are going to be in the Northwest, man. July 28th, Portland, Oregon. July 29th, Seattle. And July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia, up in Canada. You can get those tickets at romplacone.com and grahamelwood.com. And yeah, we can't wait to see it. It's a weekend. It's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. And then I will be at the Reykjavik Fringe Festival. My shows are on June 28th and July 3rd. It's at a venue called Hurrah. And that's June 28th and July 3rd. So if you're going to be in Iceland, come hang out for the Fringe Festival. Come check out my shows. And yeah, see everybody in Iceland or in the Northwest. I only go to cold places. I don't go anywhere warm anymore. I've stopped that. I only go cold places. I'm like Northeast Canada, Northwest Canada, Iceland. Only places I'm going.
Boom. Well, we'll see everybody in the Pacific Northwest. Go to grahamelwood.com or ronplacone.com. Thanks for joining us, Ron. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.
All right, Graham. Peace.